And what we've been doing here as of late is really just every Wednesday night taking a chapter, and we're going to do that tonight to chapter 11. It's only 10 verses. It's not that long. And we're going to look at these verses here together tonight. How many of you in your Bible, how many of y'all can see the Song of Solomon from here? Can y'all see the Song of Solomon? Is it right there? You know what that means? We're getting close to the end. All right. We're getting close to the end. We're almost through the book of Ecclesiastes. And especially we've been kind of taking some big chunks at a time, chapters at a time. And when we get to chapter 12, it might be a couple messages. I'm not sure just yet. And or we might can just hit it all in one time here. Looks like we're going to have to drag it into the new year. Possibly we might could take care of it on a Sunday after Christmas. We'll see how the Lord leads. But either way, I want to just say this, that I have enjoyed studying the book of Ecclesiastes. Let me tell you why. Not just because of what I found in it, and I have just some good truths, good Bible truths, and I've enjoyed it. But I tell you, it has stretched my Bible study. It really has, because probably more than any other book of the Bible that I have ever studied to preach verse by verse, book of Ecclesiastes, man, about every single time when I get to the next text, get to the next passage, I read it and I'm thinking, I scratch my head and say, what does that even mean? I mean, I don't even know what that is even saying. It's not like when you're going through the Gospels. I mean, at least, Gospel Mark, when we did that was easy. I mean, of course, there's stuff to pull out of, no doubt, but at least you kind of get a gist of what's going on. The book of Ecclesiastes, when I get to some of this stuff, I'm thinking, what in the world are we even talking about here? And then you get to digging and studying and reading behind some other good Bible expositors, and man, and when that light bulb, there's no greater feeling in all the world than when you're studying the Bible and the light bulb, it just comes on. You think, man, that is great. Man, that's wonderful. And that's a glorious truth right there. And so that's how it's been in the book. So it's been exciting. It's been exciting, and it's helped me stretch my faith, stretch my Bible study habits, and I have really enjoyed it. Now, I've not necessarily enjoyed my preaching of it, just to be honest about it, but I've had more fun back there and in the study, and I seem to be able to get it out here behind the pulpit like I get it in there. But I'm going to try my best. Chapter number 11 here. It actually starts out with a familiar verse, probably one of the more familiar verses. There's a couple of verses through it. You go to Ecclesiastes. Oh, yeah, people quote that all the time. I've heard that. How many of you are familiar with verse number 1? Do you see that? Ecclesiastes 11:1 says, "Cast thy bread upon the waters." How many of y'all have heard that? I'm sure you've heard that. Maybe you've heard some messages on that. "Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days." Verse 2, "Give a portion to 7 and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there shall it be. He that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. As thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even so thou knowest not the works of God, who maketh all. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand. For thou knowest not whether shall prosper, either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Now I'm going to stop reading right there. We are going to finish the chapter here. That's kind of the first section that I want to look at here. And again, let me remind you, in these chapters that we're in, we're actually, in essence, we're sitting at the feet of Solomon, and he's giving us wisdom, he's giving us counsel, and we're listening to this counsel and this wisdom that's coming out of his mouth. And now, as we we've had to do with every passage. We have to weigh every word that comes out of Solomon's mouth. We've got to weigh it against the truth of the Word of God. Not that this is not the Word of God, but we know that Solomon, in his older age, he got away from God, and the wives that he had, they turned his heart after other gods. And Solomon is kind of, in essence, he's cut God out of his life. In effect, there's nothing beyond the sun. Everything is under the sun. So the perspective that he is giving us is a perspective of what is under the sun. But I'll tell you, especially when we get to chapter 11 here towards the end, the closer we get to the end of this book here, the more the heavens kind of seem to open just a little bit. And he's acknowledging God in ways that maybe he hasn't before. I would like to think that Solomon at the end of his life was right with God and had restored fellowship back with God. I want to think that because of the special place that he had in the heart of God early in his life, and the special request that God granted to Solomon of wisdom, and then gave him everything that his heart could ever desire as well. But we must weigh these words. But chapter 11, as far as I can tell, and we're going to come through it together here, but as far as I can tell, this is some good counsel to all of us here tonight. And Solomon is speaking some truths about life. Some truths about life and things that we need to remember. And it might even be a hint of maybe some regrets, some things that Solomon himself had wished that he'd remembered, even concerning his own life. Maybe he's given us some advice out of his own personal testimony and out of his own personal life. He's telling us some things that we need to know. And so here's the big picture. Here's the heading that I want to give chapter 11 tonight, and that is this. It's simply this, that life is a gift. Life is precious, and life is a gift. It seems like Solomon always has death in the background of his mind. He's always thinking about death, and we'll find some allusions here to death in this chapter as well. It seems like sometimes that kind of hinders him from enjoying life. He thinks, well, I'm just going to die and everything's going to be taken from me, and I'm just going to be left to the next guy. And talks about how life is vanity because, you're all going to just die one day. What good is it to be wise? The wise man dies, the foolish man dies, the rich man dies, the poor man dies. What advantage is there? Everybody's going to die. Solomon says a lot about death and the fact that everybody is going to die. But I tell you, we know that death is certain. It's appointed unto man once to die. The only way out of that is if we get translated out here in the rapture. And that's what I've signed up for, and I don't know if I'll get granted permission for that. That's what I've requested. Anyway, just seems like that would be a lot more fun than dying, just to be honest about it. But unless you get caught up in the rapture, death is certain. I mean, 10 out of 10 people die. Okay, everybody dies. You're not going to escape it. And so death is a certain thing. But it seems like for the Christian, we don't take a dismal view like Solomon did of death, because we know, like Paul said, Paul looked at death and he looked at it as a departure. He said, the time of my departure is at hand. For the Christian, that's all it is. We're just leaving one world and we're going to the next world. Death is just a doorway. Death is just a bridge. It's just a passageway that we're passing through. And so we don't have a dismal look at death, because it's just a part of life. But however, we do need to look at death in this light and examine our lives in this way, that your life is going to end one day. I hope you know that. You're not going to live forever. You're not even promised tomorrow. You don't know what a day is going to bring forth. Nobody does. And so that ought to make us, knowing that we don't have forever to live, and we're not going to be on this earth forever and ever. We have a death date. God knows we have an appointment that we will keep with death. And that ought to light a fire inside of us in some ways to let us know that we have one life, and it will soon be past, and only what's done for Christ will last, is what the old poem says. We only have one life, and it'll be over before you know it. How many feel like you blinked and decades have passed by? It's just over before you know it. Life is precious. Life is a gift of God that He has given us. And Solomon is going to give us some advice about how valuable and how precious life really is. You don't get a second chance at it. There's no dress rehearsal or anything like that. This is the real thing. You're living it. And if you don't do some things now, you're going to be an old man or a sick man or something on a deathbed somewhere, looking back saying, I wish I would have, I wish I could have, and you're going to be filled with regrets. Let's listen to the wisdom that Solomon gives, and I believe it'll help limit some regrets that we might have when we get to the end of our life. Life is a gift. That's what I want you to think about tonight. Life is a precious gift of God to us. So I'm going to give you 3 words of advice here from chapter number 11 here. 3 points of advice here about life as a gift. We'll just go ahead and give them to you, then we'll go back and look at them here together. Number 1, life is a gift. Invest it. Invest your life in something that is meaningful and valuable and eternal. Number 2, life is a gift. Enjoy it. That's what Solomon tells us here in this chapter. Number 3, life is a gift. Be careful with it. So, 3 things. Life is a gift. Invest it. Life is a gift. Enjoy it. Life is a gift. Be careful with it. All right, so let's look at that. The first 6 verses is the first point here. Life is a gift. Invest it. Let's look at what he said. Verse number 1. Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. He's talking about investing our life. Now, before I get into that, let me ask you a question. Do you remember, and I'm sure you do, Matthew 25, do you remember the parable that Jesus gave about the talents? Remember that? He gave a parable about a man that had servants, and he had 3 servants, and to each of those servants he gave them some talents. Now, that's just money, okay? Talent. He's not talking about a talent to sing or talent to draw or something like that. He's just talking about money. A talent is a currency, it's an amount of money. And he had 3 servants, and to each one of them servants he gave them a different amount. The first servant he gave him 5 talents. The second servant, he gave him 2 talents. And the third servant, he just gave him 1 talent. And he went away. He had to go to a far country and do some business. And when he came back, he wanted an account of what they did with the money that he gave them. Well, the first and the second servant took that money and they doubled it. The man that had 5 talents turned his 5 talents into 10 talents. The man that was given 2 talents took his 2 talents and he doubled it and turned it into 4 talents. Well, the man that only had 1 talent, I think he was a little scared that he only had 1 and he didn't want to lose it. And so he dug a hole and he buried it. And he covered it up and he sat on the hole and he didn't let anybody touch it and he didn't let anybody mess with it. Well, when the master came back, he was pleased with the first 2 servants. They took their money and they doubled their money. The man had 5 talents, gained 5 more. The man that had 2 talents, gained 2 more. But when he got to that servant that only had 1 talent, and he still only had 1 talent, he had some pretty stern and some pretty stout words for that man, because he said this. In fact, I put this verse down, Matthew 25:27. Here's what the master said to the servant. He said, "Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received my own with usury." You know what that means? He said, you should have loaned it out. You should have invested it somewhere. That way, when I got back, I would have got my money back with some interest. Usury, that's interest. He said, you should have invested that talent somewhere. That way, it would have helped somebody that maybe needed some money and helped me. And instead of just digging a hole and burying it. Can I tell you, that is our life right there. God wants you to take your life and invest it in something and use it for something that will bring Him glory. Now, I don't know exactly, we can read between the lines a little bit in this parable, but I wonder if that man with the 1 talent, he was just scared all he had was 1, and if his deal went bad, if his deal went sour, then he just lost the 1, and then the master comes back and he didn't have anything. He probably thought, well, if I got this 1, that's better than not having anything at all, and he let fear of failure and fear of uncertainty, and that's what we're going to talk about here in this text right here. Remember the words failure and uncertainty. He let that fear paralyze him and make him take his talent and bury it in a hole and sit on the can all he had and then sit on the can. That is exactly what the master didn't want him to do. I kind of think that the master would have even been fine with him losing that one talent as long as he was trying to do something with it rather than to sit on it. And I'm telling you, that is your life right there. God has given you life. He has let you see a sunrise after sunrise after sunrise. He has graced your life with breath in your lungs every day. And I tell you what, I don't know why you would want to just not do it, just waste your life. And one day we're going to have to stand before God one day and give an account of what we did with what God gave us. Now, I don't know if that man in that parable, if he looked around and said, well, the other servant got 5. And that other guy and the second servant, he got 2. I only got 1. I wonder if he sat around thinking, well, I don't know why they got more than me. I'm just going to hold on to what I got. And I don't have that much. I'm scared. I don't have as much as everybody else. I can't do what everybody else can do. And I don't have the resources everybody else has, so I can't do much. I'm going to tell you something. If whatever you got it because God gave it to you. And God is a sovereign God, and God knows all. He knows what you can handle. Listen, quit looking at everybody else and say, well, they can do stuff better than me, and they got more than me, and they got this, and they got that. Quit worrying about what everybody else got. Look around at what you have. What did God give to you? And if He only gave you 1, then take that 1 and invest it in something eternal and use it for the work of God. Now that's the mindset here when we get to this chapter. Cast thy bread upon the waters. What he's saying is take what you got and throw it out there. Invest it. Cast it on the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. He says, make an investment. There will be a return on that investment. Sow some seed, and then you can reap a harvest. Now, this verse is it's a little confusing, I guess, because I got a stack, I don't know, probably about that high, of books on Ecclesiastes that I thumb through every week and see what other men have to say and what they think. And I'm going to tell you something, hardly nobody agrees on what this even means right here. Some would say that the word bread there, what Solomon's really talking about wasn't necessarily bread, but maybe some grain, some seed, and where the flood waters had come through the land, made it very fertile, and you could throw that seed out and it would give you a good harvest of bread and of grain. And I don't know if I really go along with that. Maybe that's what it means. Maybe that's exactly what it means. Maybe that's exactly what Solomon had in mind. I don't know. But here's what I think it means. I think it means take your bread and throw it on the waters. I think that's what it means. Cast your bread on the waters. Now, the only confusing thing about that is that the illustration is a little absurd in this way, that if you throw bread on the water, you're not going to get it back. Okay? I mean, y'all ever been out feeding the ducks or something like that, All right, you throw bread on the water, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it in return. That bread's going to get soggy. It's going to get ate. It's going to be gone. It's going to be gone. It's almost like an absurd thing. It's almost like an impossible thing. But here's what I think. I think Solomon is reminding us of just what God can do. A lot of times, isn't that how we feel? We feel like we're casting bread on water. We're just wasting. Like, that's the way, I don't know about you. I'll just speak for myself because I can't speak for you. That's the way I feel sometimes. I feel like I don't even know. I preach every Sunday and Wednesday night, and I'm teaching Bible class, and I'm trying to help people and invest in people and pray for people and do these things. And you ever just feel like me sometimes? You think, man, am I doing anything? Am I accomplishing anything? Is anything even really happening at all? Is there going to be a return on any of these investments? Am I going to see any dividends from all this that I'm doing? And I'm not doing nearly as much as other people are doing, but I don't mean to insinuate that at all. But sometimes you just feel like you cast bread on water. You think, oh, I'll never see that bread again. That's that's gone. What I'm putting out, there's not a return on that. But I think what Solomon is reminding us here is exactly of what God can do. God can do the impossible. God can bring a return on an investment that we think may never come to be anything. It's by faith. One man I like to read behind Albert Barnes. Me and Brother Steve's been talking about Albert Barnes. I told Brother Steve the other day, man, you got to read Albert Barnes, and he's been reading them, and I'm reading them out. So I'm kind of mad about that, because now whatever I preach, he can look and see what Albert Barnes said, and then he's going to see where I get some of my stuff from. But I don't know when Albert Barnes lived, probably the 1800s, something like that. But I love to read after Albert Barnes, and here's what he said. He said, this is hospitality by faith. That's what he called it. I like that. He said, it's hospitality by faith is what it is. It's just investing in people and doing things by faith. Wondering, sometimes you help people and you do things for people. We pick up kids and we teach Sunday school classes and we send mission dollars out, and we just keep casting bread, and we think, are we ever going to see a return? Are we going to see anything come back? And you know what we do? We just do it by faith is what we do, knowing that God can bring a return. Now, this is not karma. I want you to know that. We don't believe in karma. Somebody say amen right there. You do good and good will come back. Sometimes you do good and good may not come back to you in this life or in the way that you expect it to be. But the Bible does have a law of what we call sowing and reaping. Isn't that right? You reap what you sow. You reap more than you sow. You reap after you sow. There's all these laws of the harvest, and Jesus is and God is the Lord of the harvest. No doubt about that. He's in control of all of it. So the first thing I want you to see about investing our life is that there is a promise. Number one, there is a promise that God said this: if you invest it, if you throw it out there, He said, I'll bring it back again to you. There's a promise. Number two, I want you to see a principle in verse number 2 about investing our life. He said, give a portion to 7 and also to 8, for I know it's not what evil shall be upon the earth. Now, very quickly, the counsel here is this, have you ever heard this saying right here? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Right? That's what we say. When you cash your bread off, He said, diversify. All right? Diversify your portfolio. Okay? My portfolio is very diversified. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a portfolio. But if I did, I would diversify it. I'm going to tell you that right now. It would be diversified. But you don't put all your eggs in one basket. And what that means here as we invest our life, what he's saying here is that you're going to cast some things out. You're going to invest some things, and guess what? You're not going to see a return. I have invested in people, and I can think of some people right now that I've invested in over the years, and I spent time with them, and I prayed for them, and shed tears over them, and guess what? They hate my guts right now, okay? No return on that investment, all right? At all. But I'm going to tell you something. That's not true in every case. You know why? Because I wasn't just invested in one person. I wasn't just invested in one thing. You diversify. You do as much as you can. Spread it out. Help as many people as you can. And I promise something will come back to you. There's a principle here. Invest as diversely as you can. We don't live or die or pronounce success or failure over just one investment. You may have one investment that goes wrong, one investment that goes bad. And listen, you don't live or die on that one thing. You invest in as many people as you can. And then thirdly, as far as investing your life, I see not only the promise, there's a principle here, but then there's something about perseverance here, verses 3 through 6. He said, if the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. Okay, that's kind of an obvious statement, isn't it? If the clouds are full of rain, guess what? When the clouds get dark and they're full, guess what? It's about to rain. All right, that's kind of obvious. Verse 3, in the middle of the verse, and if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. Well, there's another kind of obvious statement, isn't it? Wherever a tree falleth, that's where it's going to lie. That's where it's going to be. Well, let me keep on reading. He that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. What he's talking about here is that investments take time. Okay? You can't just do one thing and then expect a return the very next day. How many have ever you've been on a diet and you exercised and you ate right and you get on the scale and it just doesn't move, and you think, man, I have dieted all day long and nothing happened. It takes time, right? You gotta give us some time. You gotta keep investing and keep investing and keep investing, and there comes some time. And it takes some perseverance. You gotta have some patience and some courage. You cannot let current circumstances and the way that things are make you quit and keep you from continuing to invest. And what he's talking about here, he's talking about the inevitable things of life. Sometimes those things will keep you from investing in spiritual things and eternal things that you ought to be investing in. Inevitable things like this, like it's going to rain. Inevitable things like this, like the trees will fall. Winds will blow. All these things can mess up a harvest. Trees falling, too much rain, too much wind, they can mess up your harvest. But you know what Solomon's saying is this, is that the person that is always observing those things, verse 4, he that observeth the wind shall not sow. He's always looking. The person that is always looking outside and say, well, I guess I can't do nothing today, I think it might rain. Well, can't do nothing today, can't invest anything today, can't sow anything today, because you know what, the wind's blowing too hard. Well, I can't, you see that tree, it kind of lean a little bit. We get out there and start sowing some seed, and that tree falls down. Well, all of our work is going. And you always worry about things that might happen or things that could happen. And you can always find a reason not to invest your life in something. You can always find a reason not to. Well, it looks like it's going to rain. Well, the wind's blowing. Well, that tree might fall over. All those kind of things that might happen. If then, maybe this, maybe that. And you can put them things of the seeds of doubt and uncertainty in your mind, and you think about, listen, I'm gonna tell you something. The truth is this, is that when you start sowing and you start investing your life in eternal things, you will have adversity. There will be trouble. Sometimes the rain is going to fall. Sometimes the wind is going to blow. Sometimes a branch is going to fall down and knock you in the head. But you know what? Keep on doing it anyway. Just keep on going on. Because listen, if you're going to wait for the ideal conditions before you start doing something for God, listen, I promise you this, you'll never find them. The stars will never align. It's never going to happen. You just got to dig in. You just say, listen, I'm going to live my life for God. I'm going to please God. I'm going to do what He wants me to do. I'm going to live my life for eternal things. I'm going to start investing in these eternal things. And you got to do it, and quit putting your finger in the air. Quit checking the weather reports, and just go and do it. Live your life. Quit sitting around on the pew of do nothing, and do something for God. You got to do it. You just got to go after it sometimes. Just gotta. My saying is this: make it happen, Captain. Amen. That's what I tell the time. You just gotta do it. Anybody can find an excuse not to. Man, I can't get my dad out of my head. He's in my head. I can always hear my dad, and I've told you this a million times, but when there was something I really didn't want to do, I would always find excuses why I couldn't do it. And I can hear my dad and there and say, son, nobody's looking for people that can. Everybody's looking for people that can. Anybody can make up excuses. Anybody can come up with that. And a lot of times when we say, I can't, really what we mean is, if we're being honest, you know what we'd really say? We'd say, I don't want to. There you go. When we say, I can't, what we really mean is, I don't want to. That's exactly right. You can always find a reason not to. The uncertain. Verse 5 and verse 6. And sometimes we don't understand how everything works. And sometimes that'll keep us from investing our life and living our life for the things we ought to. He says, thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even so thou knowest not the works of God who maketh all. You know what? There's things, you got to remember this, that there are some things that you just are not going to understand. You're just not going to understand, and you're not going to know. And fear of uncertainty and fear of failure, and that's what he talks about in verse 6. He said, in the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand. Keep on sowing. Do it in the morning, do it in the evening. Do it all day. He said, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper either this or that, whether they both shall be alike good. You know what he said? He said, you don't know if the morning seed is going to be good or the evening seed is going to be good, or guess what? They might both be good. And you might get a return on both of it. You know what he's saying? Keep sowing. Keep investing. Even though there's things you don't understand. We don't know how the Spirit works. We don't know how babies form in the womb and all that kind of stuff. But God knows all and God understands all. And there's an element of faith to it. Fear of failure. Well, I'm going to fail. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how. See, a lot of times what keeps us from doing something is we can't figure out the how. That's what verse 5 is talking about. We don't know how the Spirit moves. We don't know how babies are formed. The how does that work? And that'll paralyze us and keep us from living for God, investing in spiritual things. We don't know how is this going to work. I'll tell you, if you got to have all the hows and everything, listen, that's not faith. Faith is trusting God even when you don't understand. Okay, I think I told you the other day, I don't understand lights, electricity and light switches and all. I don't know. I can't wire anything up. You don't want me to wire anything up, burn this place down. I don't know how it all works, but just because I don't know how it works, don't mean I'm going to sit dark. I'm just going to flip the light on and just enjoy the light, right? That's what he's saying right here. He said, just because you can't figure out the how, don't quit. Don't stop. Don't sit around. Don't not do it just because you can't figure out the how it's going to work. Do it anyway. Guess what? Who knows? Who knows? It just might work. And that's what he's saying in verse number 6. Guess what? It may all work out. It may all be great. It may not work out. Guess what? If it doesn't, just get back up and do it again and go at it again. Hit it again. Failure is inevitable. It's going to happen. Don't let fear of failure paralyze you. I would rather try something, do something that is really meaningful for God and fail than I would just sit around on a stool of do nothing and just be afraid of, I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it'll work. I'd just try it and just fail anyway. Thomas Edison, great inventor, talking about speaking of light bulbs, Thomas Edison, the great inventor. I mean, he just not just the light bulb, but he had many inventions, hundreds of inventions. Well, and plans and drawings and a staff and all these things that worked for him and the things that he did and the endeavors that he did. And one day his whole workshop burned down. The whole thing burned to ashes. Lost everything. You know what he did? His employees gathered around and he stood up on a table that was standing in the ashes and he stood up there and he said, you know what? Let's do it again. Let's build it again, is what he said. And he stood up on the ashes of that workshop and he said, let's just build it back again, boys. And he was willing just to hit it again. And I'll tell you, everything may burn down, it may not work out, but guess what? I'd rather stand before God one day and say, God, I tried. I live for you. I tried. I wasn't the best pastor in the world. Wasn't the best preacher in the world. So many things I needed to do better. I could have done better. I should have done better. But I tried, and I kept sowing, and I kept going, and I didn't stop. Didn't just sit around and let somebody else, do it. I want to go for God. I want to invest my life. That's what he's saying. Cast your bread on the waters. Invest it. All right, I got to hurry up on these last two. We shouldn't have sang that song. Number 2. Heather said, I told you. You should have done that. Number 2, enjoy it. Look what he says, verse 7, 8, and then the first part of verse number 9. Truly the light is sweet, and a pleasant thing it is for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man live many years and rejoice in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they shall be many. All that cometh is vanity. What he's saying right there is, it's kind of a metaphor here. The light, the sun is your life. The darkness is your death. He's saying death is coming is pretty much what he's saying here. And he said, enjoy the time in the light, because darkness is coming. Your death is coming. Okay, it's encouraging, isn't it? Enjoy your life because you're going to die. Verse number 9, rejoice, O young man. He's kind of talking to the young people here. And he continues that in chapter number 12. Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thine heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart and in the sight of thine eyes. And I'm going to stop right there. He said, enjoy life. Enjoy life. For Christian, obviously, our greatest life comes after our death, but you know what? That doesn't mean that we can't enjoy the life that God's given us here. You know what the Bible says in 1 Timothy 6:17? Talks about Paul is telling Timothy to preach to the people that are rich. He said, and tell them, he said, charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trusting in certain riches, but in the living God. And I like this. He said, but the living God who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. Now, I don't know where we got this from, but some people equate spirituality with poverty. Like you're only spiritual if you're poor and if you're miserable. And spiritual people, they walk around like this, and the more bitter and miserable you are, the more spiritual you are. They must have got that out of the Bible, because that ain't in the Bible. Right. In fact, my Bible tells me the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy. Joy, a Christian enjoy. And listen, if you're miserable and you just walk around like this, that's not a good billboard for the Lord Jesus Christ. It's okay. Listen, it is okay to enjoy life.
Amen.
Listen, enjoy your family, enjoy your things, enjoy your car, enjoy your house, enjoy your vacations, enjoy. If God's given it to you, then enjoy it. Now, that's right, especially in your youth. Don't grow up too fast. To these kids, they want to be adults when they turn 12 and they're ready to be adults and all that. And I tell you what, man, if I give you, don't grow up too fast. Enjoy being a young person. Enjoy, and I tell you what, we make them grow up so fast, man. They're already on their fourth relationship, and they're already on Prozac and need therapy and all that. By the time they get 12 years old, all this drama and everything going on, man. Sometimes I feel like we just need to turn off all the TVs and tablets and cell phones and just, man, get a Tonka truck, get a Barbie doll, and go out in the yard, play around, and do something. Just enjoy that. I don't want to be thinking about all this kind of stuff. But young people want to get, and you know what? They want to grow up. And Solomon said, listen, enjoy life while you're young. Now, let me give you this last one. I'm done. Enjoy it. Invest it. Be careful with your life. Because look at the end of verse number 9. He said, but. So he's saying, enjoy your life. Enjoy all, but. Know thou that for all these things God will bring thee into judgment. Enjoy your life. Enjoy it. The things that God's given you, enjoy it. But enjoy it in the boundaries of morality and godliness. If it's outside the boundaries of Scripture and outside the boundaries of God, then leave it alone. I'm not advocating, when I say enjoy life, I'm not advocating a hedonistic kind of life where, just if it feels good, do it. No, absolutely not. Because ultimately we know that kind of life leads to misery. That's where Solomon's at. Solomon's done everything. So he's not advocating that a miserable life. Because I'm telling you what, enjoy it. Enjoy your life. Have fun. Listen, enjoy the things God got. I hope you get everything you've ever wanted for Christmas, and I hope you get a lot of money. I hope you get a job that makes a lot of money and tithe off of it and just be real good to the preacher. All right. I hope you get all them things you ever wanted. But enjoy it in the boundaries of morality and godliness and what is right. Because listen, everything that you got and what you do with what you have, what you do with the money you have, what you do with the things you have and the stuff you have, you're going to give an account to God for every bit of it one day. So you want to hear some really good advice? It's the last verse. This is some of the greatest advice. It's a balanced life. Two sides, a balanced life. Number one, he said, remove sorrow from the heart. You know what that means? Quit being so sad all the time. Be happy. Enjoy life. Turn that frown upside down. Enjoy life. But hey, that's not the only thing. There's a balance. Remove sorrow from your heart and what? Put away evil from the flesh. Live right. Be happy. Be holy. It's a balanced life. Life is a gift. You only get one shot at it. You get one crack at it. And you stand before God. What are you doing with the life that God has given you? Are you investing it in what you're supposed to be investing it in? Are you enjoying it? Are you looking at all the negative things and everything? Look, if you want to find some things wrong with your life, well, you can. If that's what you want to spend, if you want to spend all your years looking at all the negative stuff and all the bad stuff, what a waste. What a waste. Enjoy your life. Be careful with your life. Enjoy it in the parameters that God has given to us. All right? Life's a gift. Life's precious. Thank God. It's good to be alive, ain't it? Amen. That's exactly right. Let's pray. Father, pray that you take these words, these